Joining me now is the other candidate in the Virginia Democratic gubernatorial primary. It's former Congressman Tom Perriello. Congressman, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
First time in this capacity. So, basically, same first question. You're being labeled the populist, but the implication is you're not a very pragmatic guy. You accept that caricature by the Post?
Not at all. We've talked about being a pragmatic populist, in fact, and that's what I've done my whole life, is put deals together, whether that's been peace deals overseas or clean energy deals here. What people think is not very pragmatic is having an average of $35,000 in student debt for people in Virginia. People don't think it's very pragmatic to pay someone a minimum wage of $14,000 a year who's living in Northern Virginia. That's a poverty wage. People are sick and tired of politicians from both parties who are defining down the sense of what's possible so much that the middle class and the working class can't survive. So we're actually talking about solutions that resonate just as well in red counties as blue counties. And I think there are a lot of people in the leadership of both parties that haven't quite realized how much that shifted across Virginia. You know,
it's been interesting to watch this primary, both as a Virginian, but also from the outside. Many of the big national players are behind you. Bernie Sanders, I think, has supported you. I think Elizabeth Warren has said good things about you. Many of the
chair of Hillary Clinton's campaign.
Yeah, the main state players in Virginia politics are with Northam. And maybe it's because he's a sitting lieutenant governor. There's all sorts of potential reasons for that. But I wonder if that split is, let me ask you this. Does this set of Democrats, these three Democrats, deserve renomination? Have they done a good job, or do you think that this has been a disappointing 4 years with Democrats in charge of Virginia?
Well, first, when we came in January, all of the major elected officials had already endorsed for Ralph Northam, and I didn't think it was appropriate to ask them to switch sides. What we've built is a grassroots army, and I think despite them having a 3-year, $3 million head start, we've barnstormed the state. We've done over 350 public events. We've done town hall meetings, grassroots, unfiltered. We've reached over 250,000 Virginians through Facebook Live doing town halls. And I think what we're seeing is Virginians are more interested in making their own decision about which candidate they think is going to make the best governor and give us the best chance to win. And we've clearly been winning the brakes on that and have the momentum.
But would you see this team as deserving of renomination as good Democrats?
Well, we don't allow 2 terms, or else Governor McAuliffe would be running and we'd all be supporting him. I think there's a lot going well in the state. But underneath that, over the last 15 years, you have to understand the middle class has not seen a raise in 18 years in Virginia. We have a minimum wage below West Virginia's at $14,000 a year. We're near the bottom of the barrel on clean energy because the utilities have too much power in Richmond. And what I find is not just a lot of Democrats excited about our reform agenda, but a lot of those third-party voters in Virginia. 7% went third-party in November, and they're looking for new ideas. This is really about the future versus the past.
Well, all right, I hear you, but 12 of the last 16 years have been governed by Democrats in Virginia. 12 of the last 16.
Yeah.
Why do you think they were unsuccessful in getting the middle class a raise?
Well, the number one reason is a gerrymandered legislature that doesn't represent the voters of Virginia. My likely opponent, Ed Gillespie, his lobbying firm wrote the algorithm that gerrymandered the district so that voters don't get represented. Instead, their corporate lobbying clients do. And that means that the working class and middle class get a little less of a shake. And what I understand out there is people just want a level playing field. And as governor, I'm going to veto any of those efforts to keep a gerrymandered map. And we're going to let that kind of pragmatic Virginia come forward. But that middle now cares about things like criminal justice reform and Medicaid expansion because we're seeing problems in rural communities that are different than 20 years ago. So I think we need leaders that are going to catch up to that.
Well, what's realistic here? Look, basically the main, I would say, and I said this to the lieutenant governor, if there is an implied critique in the differences between the two, it's the idea of experience in Richmond and being able to get things done in Richmond. It seems as if Terry McAuliffe did everything he could to work with the other side. I think you could make, it's on a personality front. He did every charm offensive you can think of, what booze do you like, whatever. He didn't get anywhere. He struggled to work with the Republican legislature. You're coming in a little more as a barnstormer. You're ready to, you're the outsider. You're talking tough on this. How are you going to get anything done with a Republican legislature?
Well, I think what folks, with all due respect, inside the Beltway sometimes don't understand is that actually builds bipartisan appeal. The policy positions we're taking are incredibly popular in the red parts of the state. We're the first campaign in Virginia history to support 2 years of free community college, trade school, or apprenticeship program. And the two places I hear most often an interest in that are communities of color in the cities and rural white communities, the very groups that Donald Trump is trying to divide. Concerns about the poverty wages, again, the same two groups that Trump wants to divide. When we actually stand for an economic agenda that leaves no race or region behind, we bring those folks together. When we talk about criminal justice,
that's not going to translate. I mean, look, let's just be realistic. It's not going to translate right now into votes in this legislature.
It is. This is the thing.
I mean, how are you going to pay? I mean, I've heard how you say you're going to plan to pay for the free two years of college. I think waste, fraud, and abuse is one angle, which I'm sorry, that's a politician's script.
Oh, no.
But you have a tax. I know you have a tax on. Explain this tax.
We give very specific spending cuts, very specific loopholes that we're going to close, and revenue for those making $1 million a year or more. And the fact of the matter is, we hear a lot of appreciation from Republicans and independents who say, I'm going to agree or disagree, but at least you're the only one telling us straight how we're going to pay for this. Part of what we've run into in Virginia in the last 15 years, which you know as a resident, is we're underinvesting in education and infrastructure. The very things that made us a competitive place to do business and to raise a family. The Republican legislature has been blocking that, and we've seen that comparative advantage disappear. To me, it's entirely pragmatic to go out and make the tough decisions just like you would in a business.
Do you think basically the state's undertaxed?
I think we do need to have the revenues to invest in education and infrastructure. We have about 2/3 of companies that pay no tax at all, and what people care about is the quality of life. When I ran the Quadrennial Diplomacy and Development Review at the State Department, the traffic situation in Northern Virginia, frankly, is a national security threat, both because of the resiliency and vulnerability and because of our ability to attract top-level national security personnel to live in the Northern Virginia area. Adults step up, they make tough decisions, they bring people together. I've spent more time as a peace negotiator than a politician. I still believe we can find some common ground across these divides. We do it by standing for right things that can make a difference at the kitchen table.
All right, Tom Perriello, former Congressman, 5th District of Virginia. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Stay safe on the trail.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.